I'm not
I
speaking.
don't think so. I've talked to
Seen
Terry.
anything from Terry at all lately?
She's thinking, and
Okay, I'm gonna call the work study group relative to the police commission to order on Thursday, October 21st, 2021 at 7 PM in the Aldermanic Chamber and via Zoom teleconference. Those, I don't have the outline, what do I? Okay, let me read it then. Oh, okay, we don't have to do that. Right. Okay. The Zoom link can be found on the agenda and on the city's website. Okay, we started the meeting already. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderwoman at Large, Shoshana Kelly.
I'm here.
Alderman Richard Dowd.
I'm here on Zoom.
Eva Castillo. Nicholas Dahl.
Present.
Mary Lou Blaisdell.
here,
Mark Brave.
Here.
Kendra Smith.
Here.
Deborah Novotny.
Here.
Kerry Baxter.
Here.
Michael O'Brien, Alderman at Large.
Present.
And also with us is, and Chairman, I'm sorry. Alderman at Large, Lori Wilshire.
I'm here.
Also with us is Alderman Clee and Alderman Linda Harriet Gathright.
Thank you. First item on our agenda this evening is public comment. Anyone who wants to give public comment has 3 minutes. You should give your name and address at the beginning of your 3 minutes.
Lori Ortolano, 41 Berkeley Street. I just want to address this work group on my concerns with the partisan nature of this issue. You know, this was supposed to be a nonpartisan issue, and I've discovered it's very partisan. And the individual making it partisan, in my opinion, is the mayor, and the way he's handled this. And I feel the 8 aldermen who voted against it haven't stepped up to participate in the process of educating the public on why you voted against it and why you said no. And I'm tired of looking at an elected body that feels like they have to kiss the ring of this mayor. It's not serving the city well. And I'd like to show you a graph of our city. This is our representative city as of 2020, last year. 43% were registered or affiliated independent, 23% Republican, and 34.5% Democratic. But our aldermanic chamber consists of 9 wards and 6 at-large that are 100% Democratic. And that process has failed us because it's not representative of the city. School board's a little better, but not much. 21 of the 24 elected seats are a single party, and we are diverse. And I am so disappointed with Shoshana Kelly and the leadership role she has shown on this group because she won't step up and participate in speaking against this. You left it to citizens and other people running who hung their campaigns on this issue to represent it. But you as elected officials didn't lift a finger, and I expect much more. So I hope in another week, when citizens come out to vote, they change the colors of this chamber. And the diversity we start to experience is the diversity of our affiliations and our thoughts, because I think it's so important in our representation. And as a woman who participates in government, who held a technical background, I expect more from some of these leadership women, because a spine is a terrible thing to waste. Stand up and use your voice.
Anyone else wish to give public comment that's here in the chamber?
Sue Newman, 25 Charlotte Avenue. I'll be brief. I actually agree with a little bit of what Mrs. Ortolano said, but I came in after she had started and I heard her talk about the political dimension of this. I agree, it's gotten political, but the thing that jumped out at me was, I believe, at the end of July, when the chief, and I like the chief, he seems like a decent man, but he put, I think it was somewhere on social media, and I saw all the reasons that this was a bad idea. Okay, with that said, one of the comments that really hit home with me was a person that wrote in there that he was certainly going to support the chief because he wanted to continue backing the blue. And I'm paraphrasing this. That jumped out at me because just like what I said the other night, I fully believe that you can back the blue, support the police, and still be a yes. Manchester has a woman on their police commission, 5 people. All right. With all of that, I'm sorry if I wasn't clear. There's 5 people on their commission, as I understand it, and there is a woman on there. So I feel badly that, like so many things during this time of COVID crazy almost, that almost everything has gotten so polarized. You're either for this or for that, and everybody's fighting with everything. I still think it's a good idea to go forward, to get some information from what the voters have to say about it. And again, you can support this question by still voting yes, and you're supporting the police at the same time. Thank you very much.
Before the clock starts, is it okay if I just drop my mask to read this?
Now, if you're gonna be in here, you need to have your mask on.
Okay. All right. So if I pass out or something, well, you know CPR, right, Carrie?
I do, yes,
Awesome. Okay, Karen Bill, 95 Parnell Place, Nashua. The process of getting question 2 on the ballot this fall has been tainted from the onset. When there is a problem with the decision-making process within a company, there should be discussion. Number 1, what is the problem? Number 2, is it isolated? Number 3, how should it be rectified? Number 4, who needs to be involved? Number 5, does it require a permanent change? Imagine how differently this could have gone if our mayor and the police chief sat down and discussed each of these questions. Imagine collaboration over conflict. Imagine discussion over divisiveness. Common goals reached instead of a polar opposition and confusion for the voters. It's disturbing that this did not happen. It's disturbing that the mayor has played the no woman on the commission for over 130 years card. It's insulting to me. Was there such an egregious situation that occurred where he said, well, if there was a woman on the commission, this would have been different? Really? Why not have all women on the commission? It's disturbing that no compromise could have been brought to voters with recommendations from our mayor and the police chief jointly to inform voters about why they thought the process needed changing, enhancing, adding diversity, adding color, adding females. Hey, give men a break for the next 3 years, have all females on it for, the whole next term. That would have been a real message to the voters, some form of collaboration. Voters could have gotten behind it and supported it, and maybe even become a part of it, a part of the discussion, instead of a tainted process without full inclusion of residents, no discussion around a table, maybe even including lay people, and of course, education. Who knows, maybe everyone involved would have embraced and discovered options for a broader, inclusive police commission. Or found out that it's been working just fine. But now see, that's what happens. When minds are open, collaboration ensues, there's actual ideas shared. So I say vote no on
30
question 2
seconds.
and let's start the process all over again correctly. Thank you.
Anyone else in the chamber that wants to give public comment? Or anyone on Zoom that wants to give public comment? Okay, we're gonna move on. Tonight, discussion on the working session. We have attendees, Mayor Donchis, who is not with us, Bill Pease and Andy Lavoy. So if you gentlemen want to come up and sit around the horseshoe, you're welcome to. Anywhere. Good evening.
Good evening.
Can you introduce yourself and give us a little background?
Sure. My name is William Pease. I live at 21 Lock Mill Drive in Litchfield. I am a retired police officer from Hudson. I retired basically in 2006 after 22 years of service. I was a captain. I was also an accreditation manager. For the last 15 or so years, I have been the accreditation manager of the National Police Department. And I have also been a contract employee for the Commission on Law Enforcement Accreditation out of Washington, acronym known as CALEA. I am a team leader assessor. Basically what I do is go around the country and inspect police departments against national standards to see if they're adhered to those standards. I was trying to figure out in 18 years how many police departments I visited locally and nationally, and it's over 100. So what I'm prepared to talk about is my perspective on all three of my journeys in law enforcement, as a police officer, as an accreditation manager, and as a national assessor. But first, I forgot, thank you very much for inviting me to this.
Thank you for coming.
Right.
Appreciate your expertise and your background.
Well, I'm not that much of an expert, but I'll give you my 2 cents. Certainly will.
Okay. Can you pull the microphone a little closer? Thank you.
You doing better here?
Yes, thank
Okay.
you very much.
I'd first like to comment on my experiences as a police officer in an adjacent community. Like I said, I was 22 years in Hudson, and I can't tell you numerous times I interacted with the National Police Department. I spent many years as an investigator, and I've worked many cases with, I know you heard from Chief Heffernan, this gentleman right here, and Nashua PD, back during my day, okay, was so well thought of that very often, I called them directly when I was a police captain for assistance in investigations, in SWAT call-outs, in training, in internal affairs investigations. And that's not uncommon. All around New Hampshire, Nashua is called on for their expertise. And it doesn't happen by accident. It happens by professionalism, proper training, proper guidance, and proper backing. The next perspective I want to give, in 2006, I came over here as an accreditation manager, and I saw very quickly, and I've been through 6 assessments since then with the National Police Department, how the agency embraces national standards. It's part of their culture. They were first accredited in 1990. And from the top down, and I can truly say, the Police Commission have been at our assessments. They've offered any support. They've talked to the assessors. But all the way down the support, whatever the agency has needed to adhere to best practices, it gets facilitated throughout the organization. One of the things I've been proud of, that when we do get inspected, it used to be every 3 years, now it's every 4 years, oftentimes the assessors that come to inspect us, they leave with a care package of our stuff, our rules and regulations, our annual use of force, bias policing, pursuit analysis reports. Because they say, you know, geez, Bill, you guys really do a good job here. I never thought of looking at it this way. You know, I didn't bring anything, did I?
No.
Okay.
They caught me popping a breath mint. You got me. Took the mask off for 2 seconds.
So, you all set?
I'm sorry. I apologize. I mean to ruin everybody's,
Like I said, you comic relief.
put them away.
So anyways, I mean, I'm not going to just come here as a cheerleader for the National Police Department. I'm gonna really give you some of a perspective that what I've seen inside and outside. And one of the things I've seen in the media, and I've heard in these meetings, that the reason for a potential change is getting more public input. And I was confused with that, because I've had the pleasure of being involved in public activities. The Nashua Community Conversation on Race and Justice. I've been involved in several of those conversations. One of them, when our assessment team was here at Nashua South High School, and I believe Ms. Gathright was here as well. And,
Yes, I was.
and it was fantastic. I mean, you have police officers, police employees interacting with kids in the high school, and back and forth discussions. The team leader assessor, who I have a great deal of respect for, Deputy Chief Bill Dean from Virginia Beach, he told me in all the departments he assessed, and he's probably more than I have, the collaboration with the community was the best he's seen. The best he's seen. And that's just one example I want to give you about the interaction I've seen with the public. The PAL program, the SRO program, the Boys Club, all the various committees. And I have had the luxury of going around the country, and police departments have embraced community policing. They really have. If they want to get on board, they need to. But I haven't seen this. I mean, we dedicate full-time employees to the public. Getting back to my original confusion, I'm not quite sure how much more can be done. We really, if there is a need in the community, I know the Nashua Police Department embraces it and takes it on and tries to help out. Another issue I heard in the media was a potential reason for a change was the Nashua Police Department does a good job policing, but maybe not such a good job budgeting. And I went back and looked at some of my reports that I've written from across the country. And in the process that's in place here, the chief solicits recommendations from his staff. They cannot be just scraps piece of paper. Hey, I want this, this, and this. They need to present professional documents, get real live figures, and make a case for why they want this piece of equipment. It then goes from the police chief, the staff vets it, it goes to the police commission, they vet it, then there's a meeting with the mayor, and to discuss the reasons what we need. The mayor then presents his budget to, I believe, the Budget Review Committee, and the police department get a chance to present their needs. Then it goes to the full board of aldermen, then it goes back to the mayor. So what I've seen across the country, that is certainly best practice. There is professional input from the agency, and then it also leaves the agency. It goes to Budget Review Committee, which I do know is made up of aldermen, and it goes to the full board. And then the mayor has the right veto power. So I'm not quite sure what else can be done there. I've seen situations where, I don't want to use the word disasters, but in budgets, they get, where I was from, in Hudson, we would present it internally to the Budget Committee, to the Board of Selectmen, then it would go on the ballot. And there was a fair amount of times during my tenure, the folks in the town just voted the whole budget down, and we were in a default budget. That is a very tough situation to manage a professional city or town. And depending upon the tone of the town or the city, services definitely would get cut. I remember one year being a police officer, we had to pull a school resource officer out of the school. There was nobody there. And that was problematic. So I'm not quite sure what our issue is with budgeting, because as far as I'm concerned and what I see, we certainly do a very professional job in that area. One of the things I was asked by one of the Alderman Jetty, different types of, I don't want to say outside management of police departments I've seen across the country. And there is a whole bunch. I guess I would say the most common is the police chief reports to a professional city manager, who then reports to a small council. Sometimes that works if the police and the city manager work well together. Sometimes it doesn't, okay? I've seen situations of where I'm from, a 5-member board of selectmen. I've seen a 15-person council. I've seen reporting directly to a mayor. And I've seen something called a civil service commission, a local civil service commission. The reason I bring this up, if we're talking about changing what we have in place, which I can tell you works excellent, because you have such a good police department, and it's been that way for my entire 38 years in law enforcement. This is a model for the state of New Hampshire. So before you try to fix something that is excellent, there's only one way I can say it, I can tell you a couple of experiences that I've had with some of the other systems. First, I'll tell you what I experienced in Hudson. And I'm gonna say straight out, the Hudson Police Department is a very good police department. I'm very proud to have served there. There are an awful lot of good people there, and there's professional management in the town and in the police department. But back in my day, I spent a fair amount of time as a commander out in the street. And I remember for a period of time getting called into, actually it was the captain's office the next day. I worked second shift. And the captain would go, Bill, we need to know why one of the selectmen called the chief and wanted to know why 3 patrol cars were on a motor vehicle stop on Low Road last night at 9 o'clock. And I'm scratching my head, and I go, well, there was an arrest, a DWI arrest. You have the arresting officer, you have the backup officer, has to do the toe slip. And we had a young police department at the time, and patrol sergeants stopped by to make sure everything was okay. Very, very common. These gentlemen in the back room, the gentleman next to me will agree wholeheartedly. He said, well, the selectmen don't want this perception of a police mentality out there. And I have to tell you, I got very frustrated. I was trying very hard to do a good job for the town, for the police department. But that was a common type of question I got as a commander. And I did, before I thought I should bring this forward, I spoke to another Nashua officer who used to be in Hudson, and he had more stories like that. But what that led to, because I lived it, is I was managing, looking over my shoulder. And is one of the selectmen gonna go by? Is the selectman's neighbor gonna go by? Are they gonna call the chief? Am I gonna get in trouble? And then it led to the officers hesitating to call for backup. There's only one thing I can say about that. That is so wrong. And I am not here saying that this could happen here, but there's an example of people, directly accessing the command level personnel of the police department with that type of thing. And it creates that environment. Another example I can give you, what I've seen across the country, and a town, there actually was a couple, they have this commission called Civil Service Commission. It's an elected commission. And what they do, their hiring process, and this amazed me, this commission administers the written test for police officer, scores it, then they conduct the oral interviews. And they go to the chief, here's your candidates, and you can vet them the way you see fit. Now, I've been in law enforcement for 38 years. I've interviewed police candidates. I don't know how to interview somebody who's going for an engineering job or an accounting job, or, I let the experts do that. This type of situation that I just presented is, with all due respect to the public, maybe a person in the public can have a seat at the table, but you want your experts for the type of job to do the hiring process. And that really concerned me. So in closing, the reason I brought out those anecdotes is I applaud this committee here, because if I understand it, it's taking a look at what we should do. If we need to change anything or tweak it a little bit. And something this important can't be rushed. It can't be changed on emotion, or maybe I don't quite know why this change is being proposed. The Nashua Police Department truly is one of the best departments in New England. And just one other thing, last year, I got brought back to work during the COVID crisis to help out with some of the requests that were coming nationally, locally, regarding the civil unrest that was going on across the country. And I was requested to complete analysis on, demographics of people that we use force on, car stops, our training, you name it. They were asking policies on it. I didn't really have to do any work. When I say create something, it was already created. We do that in-house. I do that. And that's part of CALEA standards. So anything that was asked, I just, perhaps tweaked it a little bit. Here you go. We were so transparent, the chief had me put some of these things right on our website. I received calls from the media. Sure, I'll talk to you. I can tell you what the demographics of the people we arrest in Nashua. I can tell you our use of force training. I can tell you our citizen complaints. No problem at all. And that is so ingrained, and it's been ingrained in this police department for my entire career. And I'm saying my career even over in Hudson. So I'm just hoping, and I thank you, this committee, for taking the time to do this very, very carefully. And please, please don't rush this. And thank you. Any questions anybody has, I'd be more than happy to answer them. Yes, ma'am.
Mary Lou?
Yeah. I assume most police departments do not have to go to CLIA to be accredited, correct?
That is correct.
So why does a police department choose to do that?
Well, I can tell you the Nashua Police and the Hudson Police and other agencies I've sort of consulted for is to adhere to the best practices in law enforcement. And the best practices aren't, all due respect to this gentleman right here, it wasn't because Chief Lavoie said we're going to do this. This has been vetted for 40 years. What are the best practices? When I say best practice, best training, best weapons, best detention facility, best report writing, best evidence procedures in law enforcement, that if you adhere to them, all likelihood, you're gonna have a very good police department.
And I looked at their website today to just try to educate myself. And I know that Nashua PD is on there with an A accreditation, an A.
Yeah.
There were a couple on there that had an AE. Why would a police department get an AE? Do you know? I mean, a few of them that, did they do something extra above and beyond, or?
Not that I know of, and I apologize, I'd have to
Okay.
take a look at that. The accreditation process, they have two law enforcement programs. They have basic accreditation, which is 181 standards. There is advanced accreditation, which Nashua is 459 standards. So I'm not quite sure what that is.
Okay. You also said that, I mean, you filter all sorts of stuff in your position that comes into the PD. Do we have very many citizens complaining about police in Nashua, citizen complaints?
In my opinion, I want to say, and we put the number of complaints on our website. It is 12 to 15, and I'm guessing, and that's pretty much been kind of the average. And when you're dealing with, 100,000 calls for service,
That's not many.
that's not too much.
And one final question. It's come up a lot in previous discussions and a little bit here about how politics can affect a commission. Do you think, under the way our current commission is structured, that there's a lot of political influence?
Not that I know of, and I'm pretty much plugged in there. I have not heard that.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Anyone else have questions?
All right,
Alderman-
I do.
Alderman Clee,
I'll let the
Okay.
committee member first, sorry.
Commissioner Dahl?
All right, thank you. Thank you for being here. I
problem.
think your perspective from visiting over 100 departments and your role as an assessor is very valuable. I do have one question, but before that, I want to follow up on one of Ms. Blaisdell's. The basic accreditation versus the advanced.
Yes.
Do you have a sense of what the breakdown is? Is it 50-50 generally? Is it?
Well, I can't say 50-50. If I was a betting man, I'd go probably 75% basic, 25% advanced. Again, that's
Just a ballpark.
ballpark based on assessments that I do, and majority of them are basic.
All right, thank you. So what I really wanted to ask you about was on Monday night, we had a meeting, and one of the alderwomen brought up the Commission on Law Enforcement Accountability, Community, and Transparency. She acknowledged she didn't know much about it. She said we should look into that. I've read that report. This is a state committee that got put together. There's 48 recommendations in the report. Has the Nashua Police Department assessed where they stand in relation to those 48 recommendations? And if they have, can you let us know where we stand in regards to those 48 recommendations?
Sure. I don't have the document right in front of me. However, I was asked to testify in front of that commission regarding that. And I want to say at least 75% of those recommendations we were already doing. And that was one of the things I was able to testify to. Let's see, that you do, one of the recommendations that you have training on bias policing, training on de-escalation, training on ethics, training on all your weapons. We've been doing that for years. Any hiring practices, all the recommendations on the hiring practice. What testing do you do? We do it all. And so it really was not a big revelation for us. I had to tweak a few little things, but it wasn't overly difficult.
Thank you.
Sure.
Alderman Clee?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Alderman Wilshire, I also have a question when you have a second.
Okay.
Again, I will
No,
defer.
Alderman
I'll defer
Quaid,
Okay,
you go.
thank you very much. I just have a couple of quick ones. One is that you made a comment that we've been CLIA accredited since 1990.
Correct.
Per their website, it said 1991. and that Manchester was 1990. So did we get like some type of temporary
Yeah.
accreditation prior to 1991?
Not that I know of, I may be mistaken.
Okay.
Our cycle, how accreditation works, we're on a cycle where we get inspected in December, and we get the award in March. In a cred managed perspective, it's the inspection that you go through, so that may be my confusion. I'm not,
Thank you. So that would mean that if I looked at Manchester's, it says that they're March of 1990, they were probably December of, possibly December of.
Correct. I do
1989.
remember, because I was a police officer at the time, Manchester got accredited before Nashua.
My other question is probably kind of related to what Ms. Blaisdell had commented about the As and the AEs and so on. When this started 130 years ago and everybody's hands were slapped, there were six cities that were kind of pulled away and, you know, I don't want to say punished, but things were put the way they should be. So that my question is, 4 of those 6 now have CALIA accreditation. Hudson, Laconia, Portsmouth, and of course, Nashua, Manchester, I think it is. No, I'm sorry, Hudson did not have theirs pulled away. I apologize for that. It was, but, you know, Hudson and so on have it. Do you believe that they have the same accreditation? And I apologize, I'm literally asking this question. I do not know the answer to it, so.
Sure, go ahead.
Do you know if the others, like Manchester, do they have the same level of accreditation that we have, or they have a lesser accreditation?
Sure, I mean, you asking me those 4 communities you just said?
Let's start with just Manchester, because we're
Manchester.
closer in size to them.
Sure, Manchester has basic accreditation.
They have basic accreditation. Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Would you know, but the other ones are so much smaller than us, but do you know about the others?
Yeah, sure, Hudson is advanced accreditation. I was the accred manager when they got accredited. Portsmouth, I believe they're advanced, but they may be dropping down, but I would not want to,
Okay,
I guess, misspeak on that.
right. The other one was Laconia.
Laconia is advanced
They're
accreditation.
advanced. Then I think there's one more. Maybe not. Nope, that would be it, because then it would be Nashua, which we know is advanced. Thank you so much. I really appreciate
Oh,
that.
no problem.
Alderwoman Kelly.
Thank you. I was looking forward to you coming, and I appreciate you being here this evening.
Thank you.
I know it's a hike, so. My questions are around, and I think, Alderman Clee started to get to this, but maybe we could start just sort of the basics of what goes into a CLIA accreditation, and then I'd love to know, and maybe you don't know the answer, but, how many, if at all, the way the commissioners are appointed affect that accreditation.
Well, I guess 2 parts to your question. What goes into CALIA accreditation? And I guess I can speak to that because I've helped several agencies get accredited. You have to look at, number one, what you have. What you have for training, what you have for your facility, what you have for your evidence procedures, and then match those procedures or enhance those procedures to the national standards. I can tell you this quick story. A friend of mine was a police officer in Florida, and they annexed a neighboring community, and part of his task was basically create a police department. They created a city, and they took an empty building and, using the principles of CALIA, created a police department. And you can literally do that. I mean, I could design a detention facility, an evidence room, policies and procedures regarding use of force training, motor vehicle stops, pursuit driving. Heck, even how you keep your records. It basically is a boilerplate on how to create a police department and then continue to run it. Now, after having, over in Hudson, in the late 90s, early 2000s, I was a lieutenant and tasked with getting the agency accredited. One of the things, it's a tremendous amount of work. And if you do not have the support from the top down, and in Nashua's situation, from the police commission down, it does not work. I can tell you, it was one of the things I'm most proud of my career, getting an agency accredited. Way back when I was in high school, there were problems over in Hudson with a strike and police officers getting arrested. And I remember when I was at the police academy, I was told it was the worst department in the state. And I tell you, I was a 22-year-old kid, I was ticked hearing that. And I said, you know, I'll be damned. When we did get accredited in the early 2000s, we were one of the best. And that wasn't because Bill Pease was there. There was a whole ton of people that made a difference. But if you're working on such a project like accreditation, and you're getting micromanaged, say, hey, it costs because we gotta fix the locks of the jail cell, or get a new evidence cabinet, or do this every step of the way, you get derailed pretty quick. And the police commission here, since I've been here, they've been at every assessment. They've asked, is there anything we can do? The fact they're showing this support, letting these guys here do their job, it's worth its weight in gold. I hope that answered your question, ma'am.
Alderwoman Kelly?
I might have put her asleep.
I was on mute, I'm sorry. Yeah, I think it starts to get to it, and I think that I'll let someone else ask questions. I have a couple more, but.
Sure, go ahead.
Are you saying go ahead to me? Is that okay, Lori?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so that was helpful in terms of the background there. In your experience, what makes for a CALEA police force?
I would say the quick answer is professionalism. And when I say professionalism, that you have the right training, you have the right hiring practices that can be backed up. You don't hire somebody because they're friends with the police chief or a commissioner or a alderman or whatever. You hire them because they went through a validated, exhaustive hiring process, background investigation. That you have, when I see a CALEA agency, some of the high liability areas, that their weapons are inspected properly, that the training documents are in place. When I first got involved with this, Alderman, I would see agencies that did a good job in qualifying with their handguns, but the shotgun in the trunk, some officers didn't even know how to use it. If you're a CALEA agency, well, they're trained on that every year. Those weapons are inspected every year by experts. That is vital. That your evidence room is secured properly, valuable items are stored properly. So I've been trained and I can pick up on just different things that make a police department function. Now, the benefit of Nashua, it's all in place. And interview rooms are properly set up where they're recorded, tapes are retained. An interview later at night can be watched by another detective for safety reasons. So that's what I look for. It's not just one thing. There are many aspects that makes a police department go.
You all set,
Okay,
Alderman?
thank you very much. No, that was a great answer. Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions for Mr. Pease? Anyone else on Zoom? Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Pease, for being here. We really appreciate your expertise. Oh,
Debbie Novotny just
I think we might have another question.
Sorry, Mr. Pease. This is Debbie Novotny. I'm part of the study committee
Yes.
regarding this issue. And just a question in your experience with helping all of the police departments do the accreditation, as far as the police commission goes, how many women are on the police commission, on the police commissions that you've
Oh,
reviewed?
boy. Yep. As far as police commissions, like what we have, I would be wrong to try to give you an answer on that. The equivalent of sort of who manages the police department outside of the agency. I've seen a fair share of women in, whether it be on city councils, selectmen where I came from. When I was a captain, I'm trying to think that, I think there were 3 or 4 women on Board of Selectmen that the police chief reported to. But again, I do apologize because police commissions per se, I don't want to say they're unpopular, but I haven't seen as much as, like I said, the most common one is that city manager form of government.
Thank you.
Sure.
Carrie?
Mr. Pease, if you know the answer, are you able to explain some of the differences between the Manchester Police Department's commissioners and the Nashua Police Department's commissioners? My understanding is that Manchester may be advisory only, so can you just explain what some of those working differences would be?
Yeah, and again, I'd be going on what other people tell me, Kerry, is, yeah, the police commission in Manchester is advisory only, okay? The police chief, I believe, reports to the mayor up there. And the police commission, I think it's elected up there, I'm not sure. Completely different down here, where, as you know, it's appointed by the executive council, and they're basically the hiring and firing authority of the Nashua Police Department. I do not believe that's the case with Manchester.
Thank you.
And I do know our police commission, I don't want to say they're involved with the day-to-day operations, but they're plugged in. They let people like the man on my right do their job. So.
You all set, Debbie? Oh, I'm sorry, it was Carrie. You're all set? Okay. Anyone else? Seeing no one, again, thank you very much for being here. We appreciate your input.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Okay. Chief Lavoy.
Good evening. My name's Andrew Lavoy, 14 Mallard Point, Merrimack, New Hampshire. I'm a retired police chief with the city of Nashua. I worked for the city of Nashua from 1987 through 2019 and spent 2015 through 2019 as the chief of police. I'd like to thank Alderwoman Kelly for inviting me tonight. And one of the reasons that I agreed to come and speak tonight is because I have a great deal of respect for her, certainly for Alderwoman Wilshire and for this committee. I'd first like to apologize to this committee. I last spoke on this topic at a public meeting in September. At that time, I stated that the Nashua Fire Department had never had a female fire commissioner. I was informed after the fact that they have had only one. I was misinformed on this topic. The fact that they have had only one still made my point. Nevertheless, I was incorrect, and once again, I'd like to apologize for my mistake. I have some prepared remarks that I'd like to share. These remarks are my opinion. In the course of my opinion, if I disagree with you, it doesn't mean I hate you. It simply means that I disagree with you. So after, please feel free to ask me questions or kick me out, or any combination of both. Many other guests that I've spoken to, that have spoken to this committee, have more than adequately addressed any perceived issues with the current appointment process of the Nashua Police Commission. I've been reading about the issue and watching meetings since this charter change process began. I would like to address some of the issues that I perceive as important. I have heard questioning that implies the current commissioners have complete free rein and don't answer to anyone and can't be removed. That is incorrect. To my knowledge, the national commissioners fall under Title I of the New Hampshire Revised Statutes Annotated under Chapter 4, which is labeled State and Government. Section 4:1 is titled Removal of Public Officials for Cause. This statute allows the governor, attorney general, executive council, or the appointing authority of such individual to remove them for cause. In practice, I recall that the attorney general's office investigated a complaint of non-police related misconduct by a former police commissioner who subsequently resigned. So there is absolutely a procedure in place to remove a commissioner appointed by the executive council, and I have seen that in practice. I have heard and read some of those in favor of this charter change call the current process the good old boy network and the current commissioners good old boys, implying that they are biased against women. Commissioners Tollner, Dahl, and Plant were the commissioners for most of my 4.5 years as a Nashua chief. During that time and continuing into Chief Kerrigan's tenure, these commissioners have promoted more female officers to leadership positions within the Nashua Police Department than all other police commissioners combined. Carrie Baxter was promoted twice during that time span, including her promotion to the rank of captain and a member of my command staff. The commission is most definitely not biased against women. Like the others, Carrie wasn't promoted because she was a woman. She was wasn't promoted to check a box. She was promoted because she was the best choice and had earned it each and every day. That too is a credit to this police commission and their ability to be free from local politics. I listened to former executive counselor Pignatelli from Nashua the other night. She stated that things in Concord were different than they used to be, that her input wasn't being considered. Yet she admitted that in her entire tenure on the executive council, over multiple terms, she had never brought a female police commission candidate to any governor. I listened to a Nashua state rep speaking via Zoom at a September public meeting. She stated that she was in favor of the charter change and then started talking about the executive council vote on Planned Parenthood. I mean, really, this is what we're talking about? What does that have to do with the National Police Commission? I listened to Alderwoman Clean Schmidt the other evening lament the fact that only one woman had ever been appointed to the National Police Commission. Both made similar comments regarding current issues and dysfunction in Concord as a reason to change the police commission. I mean, that certainly is their opinion. I hope I'm wrong, but I took what they said to mean that their taste for a Republican governor and the Republican-controlled House, Senate, and Executive Council is what they were talking about. And I took that as their implication that these Republicans were biased against women. Again, I hope I'm incorrect, but that's how I took that. Prominent Democratic governors Shaheen, Lynch, and Hassan served as governor for 18 years. Neither of them ever appointed a female National Police Commissioner. Were they biased against women as well? I'm sure they weren't, just as I'm sure Governor Sununu was not. Governor Sununu has reappointed the same commissioners that Governor Hassan appointed and reappointed. When Governor Hassan appointed them, there was no outcry. Now, because Governor Sununu reappointed them, it's an issue that can only be rectified by changing the police commission process. I find that very hard to believe. If this is the case, they and others that feel that way are proving my point that political bias is a very real thing and has no business in the selection of a national police commissioner. I have literally lost count of the number of people that have come up to me and expressed their disbelief, their frustration, and their utter disgust at the way this charter change process has been carried out. The Board of Aldermen Personnel Subcommittee voted to table this issue for further study. The full board voted against placing the issue on the November ballot in favor of forming this work study committee to discuss the implications and ramifications of such a drastic change and to allow citizens to make an informed decision. However, Mayor Donchis and several aldermen decided to disregard the will and the decision of the board and bring forth their petition drive to circumvent the full board's decision. They did this without attempting to present both sides of this incredibly important issue. It is my understanding that the Board of Aldermen is the governing body of the city of Nashua, and as such, is the policy-making entity of the city, except where otherwise expressed in the city charter. I'm not qualified to interpret whether the mayor's decision violated the charter language or not. The courts will decide. What I am questioning is why on earth would the mayor do this against the decision of a duly elected Board of Aldermen for what is clear to me is absolutely no valid reason. Why would he publicly go against the aldermen? Why even involve them if he knew he would simply ignore their decision? I've heard that Mayor Donchis and some aldermen have been going door to door soliciting votes for the charter change. I can't really think of a more pronounced example of local politics being used to influence the selection of a police commission. They're literally making my point. The impression this leaves with me and the people who have shared their views with me is that the mayor can and will do whatever he wants, regardless of any interference by the Board of Aldermen. This proposed charter change allows the mayor or president of the Board of Aldermen to remove any commissioner without cause. I believe that this would even further increase the political influence that the mayor or Board of Aldermen would have over their commission picks. I also believe that the provision of the proposed charter change that requires the aldermen to approve any commission candidates, which some have touted as some sort of a backstop to the mayor having unchallenged selections, is short-sighted. 15 aldermen have many points of view. Consensus is difficult. I fear that you are looking at this through the framework of today, without remembering the past or thinking about the future. It wasn't that long ago when half of the Board of Aldermen wouldn't speak with one another, and I was close to arresting the other half for disorderly conduct. Sitting in the same spots, in the same horseshoe. Similarly, what if you get a mayor that has absolute hate and disdain for the police?
Doesn't happen now.
These are very real possibilities when you involve so many people with so many agendas in the selection process. I question the necessity and political motivation of having to make this charter change now. Why can't it wait for a proper study to be conducted? I haven't heard one legitimate reason why. With 50% of the population being women, I wholeheartedly agree that the Nashua Police Department should have a woman police commissioner, wholeheartedly. The solution to that is to contact the governor and the executive council with a female candidate, not to change an entire system that has worked for over 100 years. Chief Kerrigan has publicly stated that he checked with the governor's office, and neither the mayor nor any member of the Board of Aldermen contacted the governor with a female candidate for the most recent police commission appointment last month. So is it really that important to you? Actions speak louder than words. In closing, I'm gratified to see and hear many aldermen say publicly that they have the utmost respect for the men and women of the Nashua Police Department, for the amazing job they do in these extremely difficult times. I have also heard many aldermen say that they have the utmost respect for Chief Kerrigan and love the job he has done for the police department and the citizens of Nashua. Two of the alderwomen that I have heard say this are Alderwoman Clee and Schmidt, and I thank them for that. My question to them, however, and to any other alderman is this: if you have so much respect for the men and women of the Nashua Police Department and for the job that Chief Kerrigan is doing, then why won't you listen to him when he's telling you over and over again that this ballot question is not good for the police today and won't be good for the police department tomorrow? Those are the remarks I have. Feel free to kick me out or ask me any questions you like, or both.
Kick you out just yet. Does anyone have questions for Mr. LaVoy? Alderman Clee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, I'd like to set the record straight. On Monday, and at no point have I ever said that we need to put a woman or any particular person on the commission. I don't say that. I never have said that, and I don't believe in it. I believe that we should put the best person for the job in the commission, whether we have 3 or whether we have 5. That's always been my stance. So I think you just probably misheard something. And when I've been asked, I state very emphatically, I do not believe that any one particular person, whether it be race, whether it be their matter of choice of sex or whatever it is, I have never done that. The other thing is, I truly respect you and your opinion. But again, I'd like to clarify it for the public. I have never signed the petition for the citizens ballot. I have never knocked on a door to push the citizens ballot. I have never approached a person to speak about this. Have I spoken about it? Yes, when I have been asked. I have never pushed it forward.
I didn't quote you as the one that did that.
No, but you
Alderwoman, so-
kept saying Alderman Schmidt and Klee when you would make your statements, and I wrote it down as you said it. So
Right.
I wanted to make that very clear for the public, that I have at no point ever done that. And again, I do respect you. I respect your opinion, but I just wanted to correct the record on that. At this point, I think that's all I need to say, but thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Alderman Dowd.
Yes, thank you. Chief Lavoy, I've been involved with city government for quite a few years, decades actually. And I have been involved in meetings on various subjects relative to the police department and the city. And I don't want to get into specifics, but have you ever had confrontational meetings with the mayor on subjects of expenditures relative to the police department?
Well, I'm retired now, and I'm supposed to be walking off into the sunset. Quite frankly, not answering these questions, but let me put it this, I've worked as chief under 2 mayors. I'd like to think that as long as it's legal conversations that mayors and myself have in the everyday business affairs of being a department head and speaking to the mayor, I've absolutely had very pointed disagreements with mayors, both mayors I've worked for, so I don't quite frankly know if that's me or them. But my job's to advocate for the National Police Department. And yeah, I mean, we've had many disagreements, but we've had many agreements. You know, both mayors I've worked for, and I don't think it's proper to get into you know, details, because to me, a lot of that, I've never been asked to do anything certainly unethical or illegal, because that conversation would last about 1 second. And I think that's just part of being a department head, and, you know, the mayor can certainly express his or her displeasure with any of their department heads bringing something to the table they disagree with, as certainly with the independence of working for the police commission, I certainly can stay strong and explain why that's not the best way for the police department, and we can either come to agreement or not, and follow the process like we do with the budget. I mean, I've had many budgets that both mayors have cut, that the police commission have brought forward with my input. And, you know, every time the aldermen have decided to go forward with that, and that's how our system is, and I think that's a good check and balance, you know, every time. So I guess that's my long-winded answer to say I really don't want to answer too many personal things about that out of respect for the process.
Yeah, I didn't want to get into specifics for that very reason. But it leads to my next question, which is, do you think when situations come up relative to expenditures by divisions, that it's easier for a discussion for police and fire than it would be for division directors that work directly for the mayor?
Oh, I think absolutely. the independence you have by, you know, answering to a police commission instead of directly to the mayor, certainly gives you that kind of a buffer. And, you know, that certainly doesn't mean you don't keep the mayor, you know, informed of things, but yeah, that, I don't want to say autonomy, because it's not autonomy, because everybody has a boss, and, you know, the mayor and the Board of Aldermen control your budget. You know, and every chief's a genius if he has money, and he's a fool, he or she's a fool if they don't have money. I mean, there's really not that many new things, it's just, you know, what you can pay for and what you can do. But, yeah, most definitely I was able to advocate for my people. I was able to advocate for what I thought was best for the citizens of Nashua, because I worked for a police commission and in the way it was formulated, rather than if I had worked directly for the mayor. I mean, being a police officer is a little different, because, you know, in New Hampshire, there's a tremendous amount of, you know, protection for police chiefs. But still, it's, you directly work for somebody that, you know, can take your job tomorrow for no reason, that, you know, I would think that would have a less strong chief. I think that would be an issue for.
Yeah, and I didn't want to make this a strong point in this discussion. I just wanted it as a data point, so that it's part of the recorded discussion. So when we're done collecting all this information, that we'll be able to formulate an informed decision, regardless of what happens in November. I think that's important.
You all set, Alderman Dowd?
Yes.
Alderman O'Brien?
Thank you, Madam President. Chief, you and I both exited our respected buildings. You, the police department, and I, the fire station, and we rode off into the sunset, unless you did something truly spectacular like I did and run for the Board of Aldermen. But I care about the city, and I know you do.
Absolutely.
You know, you don't do a career that could possibly take your life and the actions of your duty and then just throw it all away. You have that in your heart, and you have it forever. But I'm looking now in your opinion, because I think in a lot of items, one must really step back and to look at the equation. In my case, 35 years, I think if I was a chief now or something like that, yeah, I think I would have some modifications to make the thing a little bit better. And I think you have in yourself kind of gone over, laying at night, you know, thinking about, I could have done this and I could have done that. Would have been a perfect situation. But what we have here, Chief, is a fracture within the citizenry. Some people presenting one thing, you know, saying that there's a need for change, and some people aren't. But I'm looking for your overview. Do you see any compromise? And I'm relying on your experience, that for you to say you worked it, you understand it, you applied it in your, you know, administrative position. Is the system you have over there, is it 100%? Would you make any changes if this committee could go forward after the November election? And is it worthwhile to take a look at that? Our goal would always be, as aldermen, to try to make all departments better. But, you know, I'm asking the question, is there a need, or you feel quite confident that the system you have right now is more than adequate to the situation at hand?
Well, I mean, I think certainly in you know, the first responder type of work that you and I both spent most of our adult lives doing, quite frankly, you know, things change weekly, let alone, you know, yearly. I've been gone, you know, over 2 years now. And, you know, there's many things that I think can always be improved. And I think, my opinion is, I don't think this commission or anyone is afraid of any looking at what they do. And, you know, I think something, you know, if you want to add a commissioner or something like that, or add 2 commissioners, that's something that certainly can be talked about. But again, the local control, you know, and they keep using words control, the local control, where, you know, the people that are against this, you know, I know I word it as being, you know, free from local politics. I think that's a very different phrasing, and I mean, I just think you need to have that separation. And again, everything's my opinion. I've literally walked into the police department one time since the day I left. You know, a lot of that had to do with COVID, but a lot of it had to do with, you know, it's not my gig anymore, and I don't want to be that guy. Right. You know, I want Chief Kerrigan to be a better version of me. You know, and I just think that, you know, anytime you have so many people, even if, and when I say so many people, you know, if we're talking a mayor and we're talking 15 aldermen, you have biases, and it's human nature. And you may not even know you have biases, and, you know, especially when the wording of the charter is you can remove somebody without even a reason. That person's going to be beholden to you. I just don't think how you can possibly say they're not. And I just think that the layers of separation that the current appointment from Concord has, I just think that's a good buffer. And so I definitely wouldn't change that. I would most definitely, you know, add a female to the board. That's absolutely overdue. But, you know, expand the board, add a female. But you don't have to change the system to do that. Ask Concord to change it. I mean, you don't change the entire system. You literally have, you know, I work for a consulting firm. I'm all over New England. You literally have the finest police department in New England and one of the finest police departments in this country. Kalia literally says that this is a model agency. What that means is they're saying, if you're making a police department of this size, that's what it should look like. I don't know what else to tell you. I mean, what are we doing here? And I mean, and I'm not offended, you want to take a look at it, but the way this process has gone down, and again, I don't know if there's been conversation, I'm out of the loop, I'm reading it in the paper, you know, I'm driving my wife crazy, firing you folks up on the laptop, no offense. And, you know, I just don't get it. This is, and again, I've said this before and I'll say it again. You know, whatever issues you may think you have in the city, the police department is certainly not one of them.
Thank you, Madam President.
I have a question. Do you think, well, you probably know this, when it comes time for the budget, and there are things in there like the PAL officer, the senior relations officer, don't you think those would be the first cut if you had to make cuts in the police budget? The community-related things?
Yeah, I mean, again, you know, I don't want to put my chief cap back on because I was trying to get all that to leak out so I could sleep at night, actually. You know, we're a very large agency. You know, there's many moving parts. But when it comes down to it, it's police work. When it comes down to it, I mean, I remember my first few months as chief. You know, we solved a homicide and whodunit homicide. We had no suspects at all, no connection to the victim. Oh my God, how are we going to solve this? And through fabulous work by the men and women of the PD, they solved this homicide in like less than 48 hours. That's unheard of. And I got a call, because I always had a direct line, and I got a call from a citizen, and he wanted to talk to the chief specifically. So I'm stretching my arm out, getting ready to rub myself on the back of what an amazing job, how fabulous we are. And all this gentleman wanted to talk about is speeding vehicles on his street. He had absolutely no idea about the homicide, didn't care about the homicide, and you know what? I don't know that he should, because that, in his world, that didn't exist. In his world, we weren't doing our job, and that kind of crystallized things for me as a new chief, that we can have all the bells and whistles, we can have everything, but policing comes down to connections. Policing, you know, comes down to men and women on the street, you know, preventing crime and enforcing laws. All that other stuff is great and it's crucial, but it's extra. And, you know, the PDs, I'm guessing it, well, I shouldn't guess, but when I was the chief, the alderman had authorized 187 officers. We never went above 179 because we couldn't pay for it. You know, the overtime budget was constantly, you know, 500,000 minimum understaffed. So we handled it by attrition. I literally couldn't get to full staff because then I wouldn't be able to pay my officers. So we had to cover things with overtime. And, and I don't want to bore you with all that stuff, but, so again, the long-winded answer is, yeah, that's all great, but it all costs money. And when your budget is 94 or 95% payroll, you literally don't have many choices. And yeah, those are extra budgets crucial. And that's why, the aldermen have been fabulous, certainly when I was the chief, even when the mayor made cuts, the aldermen always realized that, they were crucial for us, and we don't ask for a dime that we can't justify. And I question any department to come in and trade paperwork with Karen Smith and show that we haven't proven how we spent every plum nickel in this police department.
Thank you. Well, that's one of the concerns that I have is, if there's influence on the budget, that those would be the areas that would be cut. If people have kids in high schools, they certainly want to have their, the school resource officer available. And the PAL program, that's important to the people in that neighborhood and to the community that it serves. And then those things really concern me, so I just thought I would bring that up and ask your.
Well, no, I mean, it's a great point, because every police officer that's not on the street is an officer taken away from enforcement and prevention activities, because we have no extras. There's no bullpen warming up waiting to come in. How that you have what you have. And I will say this, and I've passed this down to my deputy chiefs, who certainly one is now the chief, and never forget, it's not your money, ever. And I think we've always budgeted like that. Our job is to shepherd this money, and it's your money. It's the citizens' money, and we don't ever forget that.
Thank you. Carrie?
Chief, do you recall in the early 2000s, one of the attorneys on retainer for the National Police Patrolmen's Association was Attorney Donchis?
I do.
And so during that time, he was the patrolmen's union attorney, or during his time as mayor, did he ever raise any issues with any of the current commissioners, or raise an issue with the format and how the commission is made up?
None I'm aware of.
Okay, and did
I've never heard that.
Okay, and was there ever a time where the agency was accused of not being transparent? Because that's one of the talking points right now, is that they want to make this change to the commission for better transparency.
I have heard that, and I can answer that. Well, I'd never heard it before. Now I'm hearing that, and all of a sudden it's an issue. I mean, I can only say, when I was a chief, which wasn't that long ago, City Hall got a press release every single day and got an arrest log every single day. Any alderman that has ever called me, I've called them back. I received phone calls when I was on vacation in North Carolina. I received phone calls. That was Alderman Clee.
Definitely.
And I answered my phone, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
10 at night, 11 at night, any major incident, myself or a police commissioner would call the mayor, either mayor, so they knew before it would hit the papers. There's commissioner meetings are public. Everything in the police department is transparent, nowadays. I mean, it's just, I don't know where that would come from, because I never heard that expressed by the mayor in the past in any capacity.
Thank you.
Mary Lou?
Thank you, Chief. You stated you served under a couple mayors. How often did those mayors attend the police commissioner meetings with you? Often? Were they there, or?
Almost never. I can't recall and again, I'm trying to remember, I can't recall, Mayor Donchis ever at one. I believe Mayor Lozo went to one or two, but that was usually to speak with the commission about budget issues. Yeah, no, I don't ever remember that.
And you spent, it sounds like the majority of your career here in Nashua. During your tenure in the police department, has this issue of the police commission, the way it is currently formed, come up before that you're aware of? And if so, what was the discussion at that point?
Not that I'm aware of. And if I could just add, under Mayor Lozo, she and I met every other week in her office, just to talk about everything to do with the police department and keep her up on things, and in addition to our monthly department head meetings. Under Mayor Donchis, that didn't take place, and other than the monthly department head meetings.
Thank you.
Alderman Guthrie?
Hello, Chief.
Hello.
It's great to see you tonight.
Nice to see you.
You mentioned that you did not want to work for someone who could take your job today or tomorrow. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that one for me?
Yeah, I guess what I mean is because they disagree with me simply out of, I want you to do this, and I disagree with it because it wouldn't be something professional for the police to do. I mean, it's different, than, a supervisor at a regular job, saying, I need you to do this in the context of your job. I mean, the police are bound by law. The police are bound by ethics that others are not. So, a mayor can, quite frankly, I can work directly for a mayor, and the mayor, it wasn't the case in Nashua because that's a promotion, so that's something that you have to have cause. But there's many, I've spoken to and dealt with chiefs all over New England that, have said they've gone in, they've turned down chiefs' jobs because the mayor or somebody on the town council said, day one, I want you to get rid of that guy. I want you to fire this guy. I want you to demote that guy because we've never liked them, and they haven't taken the job. I wouldn't work in that environment. And again, the police are different. You can't, we're bound by law.
Mm-hmm. Have a follow-up? Mm-hmm. But if you're in that environment and that situation that you just spoke to happened, what then? Would you follow through with whatever this person is telling you to do?
If it's illegal or unethical?
Exactly.
Absolutely not.
Great.
I'd tell them to pack sand and find another chief.
So
Or I'd have a little chat with the newspaper and explain why I'm leaving.
Okay, great. Can I follow up?
Yes.
So that's my point. Anything that the citizens petition has said that if anyone is let go for whatever the reasons may be, and I'm not going to give any hypothetical reasons, but if let's say the mayor wanted to let go someone from the chief of police, we'll use the chief of police, that would have to go through the board. It's not that there's no check and balance on that. So I just want the public to know that there is a check and balance.
Well, yeah,
The same
certainly. I mean, you would still have a police commission.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, yeah, and I would imagine you'd have to have a reason.
So, one more. Okay. You also said that you've never been asked to do anything illegal with either the current mayor or the previous mayor. And if you did, they wouldn't have 1 minute with you, basically, or 2 minutes with you. So I say that to say also that that's the ethics of the police department, okay, which we all speak so highly of. But what bothers me the most, and it didn't when this first came out, but the more I'm hearing is you either feel, or some people feel that if this petition goes through, all of a sudden, the officers are afraid or feel they have too much on them because there's too many eyes locally on them. There's eyes on them locally now,
Sure.
always have been.
Absolutely, I get what you're saying.
So I struggle with that.
Yeah,
scenario.
I don't mean that in any way, shape, or form. I mean, the police are out there for everybody to see every minute of every day. Excuse me. No, I mean, in my opinion, I think it would be a gradual process, and I don't think it's anybody be afraid of what you're doing, because what our officers are doing are what's right, and if they're not, we find out about it, change it, and discipline them for if they didn't do it. But what we're talking about, well, I'll speak for myself again. I'm liberated. I don't work there anymore. I just think that it would be a gradual process, and over the span of whatever years, I just think that it would get to the point, and this is my opinion because I've seen it all around, that these cliques type things start getting formed. That you want to stay a commissioner, you gotta tell them to do what I want rather than what the commission, who's supposed to be independent, thinks is right. Based on what they're being briefed on by the professionals in the field that work for them. That's what I'm talking about. I certainly, if I've implied that, I certainly didn't mean to, that day one, all of a sudden, there's going to be, all this, nobody's going to be able to work or anything like that. I certainly don't mean that. I think it's going to be, over years, and if in fact that happened, and when you have provisions like, a commissioner can be removed for no reason whatsoever, I mean, in my opinion, that commissioner is going to be beholden to who appointed them if they want to stay a commissioner, because they know they can just get removed. But no, I certainly don't mean Armageddon's coming overnight.
So currently, the commissioners are, I don't want to use the term beholding, but supposing their overseers, I'll put it that way, are the executive council and the governor.
Correct, and everybody has a boss.
Right.
I just think in my opinion, having four people that can affect your future is a lot less chance of, being beholden when you have 15 different agendas plus the mayor. I think that's my point, that less is better. Less is always better, in my opinion. The more you expand things out, the more you have for all different cliques and all different things of that sort over time, in my opinion.
All set?
Thank you.
Alderman Clee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chief, I'd like to just kind of clarify two things. One is, you had also made a comment about at least my statement on Monday relative to the parties of Republican and so on. I'd like to clarify that if I was misunderstanding. My comment was that because I am a Democrat, I cannot get through to the governor's office. That was quite clear, and it's well known on there. As far as it being Republican, I have no issue with that. When I was the chair of the State Federal Relations and Veterans Affairs Committee, my Republicans on that committee, as well as the other Republicans on my committee, would come to me quite often and apologize for what some of the far people who had a lot of power would do. So that's when I talk about the change up there. It's the power shift, not the Republican versus Democrat, but the power of extremists. And that's a comment that I made. So for anybody, I apologize if it's taken that Republican versus Democrat, because that's not what it was.
Well,
It's meant to be more of the extremists that's up there right now, which is scary.
Sure, and I remember you saying something to that effect, and as I said in my statement, I hope I'm wrong, but I took that to, and other people I've talked to took that to mean, and that's what I said. And I don't mean to specifically quote just you and Alderwoman Schmidt. It's just unfortunately that's what I was on my laptop listening to, on Monday night. So it wasn't. Let's pick on you two at all.
And I never felt that way. I truly respect you, and I know you respect me as well. The other comment, if I may, Madam Chair, you keep commenting that the current or the proposed, the ballot question that's there, keeps saying that the mayor or whoever could remove for no reason and so on. You do know that they basically took chapter and verse from what exists now. So if you go to Subpart B, Related Laws, Chapter 1, Subsection A-102, Removal of Commissioners, the exact wording is, the governor, with advice and approval of the council, shall have full power to remove any commissioner at any time. There's no reason of justification, et cetera, and so on. So they when that was originally proposed to the Board of Aldermen and then has subsequently gone on, that is the exact wording. Instead of saying governor, I believe it says the mayor with the advice and approval of, instead of saying council, it says the Board of Aldermen.
Well, the statute I read, the first, and I read it today, the first paragraph in it said with cause. So that's what I quoted, so.
But this is, I printed this out today.
Okay,
That's-
well,
That's
I don't-
actually our charter, and it's A-102.
I don't have
It does
that
not even
member.
say with cause, it just says remove any commissioner at any time. I agree, it should say with cause, both should say with cause. So, for that, I agree with you, but I just wanted to clarify that is completely different from what we keep hearing over and over again, is that the mayor can just do it without any, actually, so can the governor. So,
Okay.
thank you very much.
That's not what I read.
Mark Brave?
Thank you. I just want to add, Chief, thank you for joining us today. You had a really great career there at Nashville PD. I just want to add that, like last week we had Commissioner Shaheen from Portsmouth, and today we have Commissioner Derek Peters from Rochester. So I just want to, let the public know that we have another perspective on how this system is working in another city in New Hampshire. But again, thank you all for speaking today, but I just also want to make sure that we allow the public to see another perspective of what's going on. Thank you.
Anyone else have questions for former Chief Lavoy? Alderwoman Kelly.
It's not for the chief. You can go for it.
Okay.
He's had a lot of questions tonight.
Seeing no one else, then, thank you for being here. We appreciate your input.
You're welcome. Nice to see you all again.
Nice to see you too. Thank you.
When I'm not trying to get a budget through you.
Alderwoman Kelly?
Yes, I was just going to ask that we actually allow Mr. Peters to speak. I know that Derek just mentioned that, I'm sorry, Mark mentioned that he was here, but I, for one, as a committee member and chair when I'm not exposed to COVID, would love to hear from him.
Well, Alderwoman Kelly, at the beginning of the meeting, the mayor came in with 6 people and said they wanted to speak. And I said they weren't on the agenda, so I didn't allow them to speak. So now that Mr. Peters is here and he's not on the agenda, I don't think it's fair that I let him speak unless he wants to speak at public comment for the 3 minutes. I have to be fair.
I'm confused why that happened because the mayor was on the agenda, so.
The mayor was, but not the 6 people he brought with him that wanted to speak. Alderman Gathright.
I just have a question. So, did you mention to him that those people would have 3 minutes if they wanted to speak in public?
Yeah, if they're here
And
for
he-
public comment, yes.
Yeah, he refused that?
He left. Yeah, I don't know why he refused it, but I did offer that.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. Okay, anyone else have anything?
Diana, so
Commissioner Dahl?
we don't expect the mayor to show up and speak?
No?
No.
He was here earlier and he left.
Okay, well, where are we at? Could I speak?
You can.
All right, well, I really had, me and other people, I think, had put quite a bit of thought into some things to ask the mayor. I guess I'll just limit it to, I saw an email that he sent out today about the woman being excluded from the Nashville Police Commission. I know he brought an uninvited guest as well on Monday night, and we had a speaker that was not on the agenda. As I said Monday night, I have a lot of respect for Linda, but I didn't think it was fair that she should be in the horseshoe with unlimited time to get her message across. That being said, I was gonna ask the mayor if he had any idea as to why Governor Maggie Hassan did not call Linda Pintrich back. I don't know the answer. I suspect he doesn't know the answer, but I did want to ask him that. And I did also want to point out that what I would have asked him is that on Monday night, Councilor Pignatelli stated that no one, including the mayor or anyone on the Board of Aldermen, had ever provided her a name during her 10 or 12 years on the Executive Council. And I would have liked to ask the mayor why he never referred any candidates, male or female, to the governor if he was concerned about how the committee was appointed. So I guess I'm disappointed that he isn't here to answer questions. And I guess I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Kendra Smith?
I just wanted to speak as one of the committee members. Being brought in on this, I was in the understanding that we're here to educate the public and be able to get as much information in as possible before we vote. So I think it's in the best interest of the committee to let Mr. Peters speak, so that people that are listening or watching later, because I do share this, so that people that cannot attend can watch the minutes later, able to hear both sides and not just one side.
I understand that. The problem is that I told the mayor, because those people weren't on the agenda, that they couldn't speak more than the 3 minutes during public comment. And for me to allow someone else to do that is really not fair, so I'm not going to do that. Mr. Peters is more than welcome to speak at public comment, but there's a 3-minute time limit. If I had known, or if he had been on the agenda, we would have certainly made that accommodation.
So could I ask Mr. Peters a question and then he can answer that? Or would that also be a 3-minute answer?
No, he can speak for 3 minutes.
He can speak
And
during the
we can
3-minute
ask him
public comment
questions
because
in a minute.
that's
Okay.
what's fair tonight. Okay,
Point of order, Madam President. Unfortunately, I don't think a lot of people understand, but we have to follow the rules that we traditionally follow within the chamber. And the point is, we have to basically go by this, which is Robert's rule, excuse me, not Robert's, don't be confused. It's Mason's rules. And basically, it comes down to like the call of the chair. And I want to support, Madam President, you in making your decision. It's a difficult one. You know, I think that this committee would like to hear from everybody, but rules are rules.
right.
I mean, this does not stop the committee in the future, if I can make the recommendation, of future inviting somebody to come in and offer testimony as part of their exploratory. But just to have people coming in, I think there has to be more of a credence with this, and so therefore I support the chair, although there isn't a call of the chair at this particular time. But I want to note that, Madam President, you are doing it by the Mason's rules for good order of decorum of a body that follows our automatic rules. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Brave, did you want to speak again?
Yes, thank you. And I want to apologize because obviously I was not aware that as a committee member from out of state, out of the town of Nashua, that, you know, I was tasked with bringing in 2 members of a different, you know, police commission from my area, which one was Shaheen last week, and then Commissioner Derek Peters today. I did send an email saying that I did not receive a response yet, but when I saw him here, I was excited because it will get a different perspective. But again, now that I know that, we'll make sure we schedule him for a later date. I know we have another meeting next week. It wasn't my intention to just, have him attend without putting him on the agenda, but that was not clarified.
Okay, I apologize for that. Okay, is there anyone else that says anything? Carrie?
I just want to also say that I'm extremely disappointed that the mayor chose to leave when he was advised that the folks he brought who were not on the agenda were not going to be able to speak freely and would fall under the 3 minutes. This, if I understand it correctly, this is our last committee meeting prior to the vote. I didn't get an email that there was a meeting date for next week.
That is correct.
So this was our last opportunity to be able to ask him some questions to get a better understanding of why it was he proposed this change and why it was that he proceeded with the petition after the aldermen voted to table it and send it to a study committee. I'm in disbelief that he has left, and I think it unfortunately speaks volumes to his leadership at this point. I also want to say, as a female who's had to work hard at the Nashua Police Department, and to speak for all the other women who have had to work hard at the Nashua Police Department, regardless of their rank, that him citing the lack of women on the police commission as a reason it should change is offensive. There isn't any reason that anybody in this city couldn't have looked into how to get onto the commission or go about the process. No one came to my house when I was in college to tell me how to be a police officer. It was something I wanted to do, and I went out and found out how to do it. Just like when I moved to the city and I needed to put a shed in my yard, I didn't just put up a shed, I figured it out. I came down to City Hall, figured out how to get variances, and went through the process like everybody else. I just shake my head at how this is going. I'm not opposed to taking into consideration some changes. Should there be diversity on the commission? Yeah, absolutely. But you can't just pick people to be diverse. People have to go through the process like everybody else, just like we do with our hiring process at Nashua Police Department. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Dahl?
I'm sorry to, thank you for indulging me. I just wanted to follow on that a little bit. Miss Bill made a comment, doing public comment about how it would have been nice if the mayor and the chief could have sat down and talked about this. I will tell you, I was in a meeting on the budget with the chief, 2 deputies, myself and the mayor one day, I believe it was in April, to talk about the budget. The next day is when the mayor sent out his email to his email group, pushing this. He didn't have the courtesy to tell us, any of us, the chief, the deputies, any of the commissioners, the chair of the commission, no one. It was not the budget meeting he wanted to have. He had asked for 0%. And, you know, he's talking about not having, he's talking about the police ignored his request to come in at a 0% this year. I could tell you, as a participant in that meeting, the police chief absolutely told the mayor, we will come in at 0 if that is what you want, mayor. But the police chief told him what that would mean for the department. And that meant losing 6 to 10 police officers to come in at a 0%. Over 95% of the police budget is personnel related. The Board of Aldermen approved the budget. They approve all the labor contracts. There's very little wiggle room in a police department budget. The fact is, we would have had to lay off 6 to 10 of the most recently hired, who also happen to be some of the more diverse officers on the force. We told the mayor that, and that's where we are. We left that meeting, no word that he was going to propose this change the very next day. Thank you.
Nor did the discussion happen with this board. Alderman Galbraith.
Just commenting a little bit on what the commissioner was saying. Even though my understanding of what happened with that, whatever meeting they had, is that the mayor wanted that 0%, and he did not want to give the police department what they wanted and what they felt they needed, let's put it that way. However, this board did, and the budget committee. So I just want the public to know that no matter what, this board did what we needed to do for our police department, as we always do. Thank you.
Anyone else before I open it up for public comment? Okay. Is there anyone that wishes to give public comment? Just so you know, there's a 3-minute time limit. And I need your name and address for the record.
Jim Tollner, 1 Sequoia Circle. I'll be very brief. Alderman Gathright,
Yes.
the police commissioners are 100% beholden to the citizens of Nashua. When I sat down with Governor Maggie Hassan, and when I also sat down with Governor Sununu, they said that your job is to serve the citizens of Nashua. I heard the same thing from executive counselors. So what I would ask everybody in the city is to step back and listen to Maggie Hassan and listen to Governor Chris Sununu, because they were able to cross party lines and make decisions that both of them thought were best for Nashua. A Republican governor in this time reappointed the same exact commissioners that a Democratic governor approved years earlier. So everybody out there, this should not be political. And I think if you take a page out of both their books, it would benefit Nashua. I will also say that the president of the Board of Aldermen, myself and the chief met with the mayor prior to all this going on. Asked him, probably at that meeting, we probably asked him about 5 times. Can we work together? Could we form a committee? Could we avoid this? It wasn't in the best interest of Nashua. And he said, I'll go back and check with my group and let you know. Okay? And the group that he's talking about wasn't the Board of Aldermen. It was the group that put this petition together. When I voted for Jim Donchis 2 years ago, I voted for a mayor who I thought would represent everybody in the city. There were times I said to him before I supported him, I said, there are going to be times when we agree and we disagree. But that's what it's all about, and that's what makes a strong city. So I ask everybody that's out there listening right now and watching this, vote no on question 2 on election day, because it's not good for Nashua today, and it certainly will not be good for Nashua in the future. Thank you.
Mr. Peters? You're on mute.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Sorry I wasn't on the agenda. I'll make this as brief as I can. I was a prior commissioner in the city of Rochester, and as of January, I will be again. I'm running unopposed. I've been the chair for the last 5 years. We're elected officials. We currently have 3 commissioners. We each represent 2 wards, and we do actually have a female on ours. We are the hiring authority. All sworn officers work directly for the police commission. That includes the chief. We negotiate his contract. He has ties to the city manager and the mayor, but it's ultimately he's responsible to the police commission. We all work very well together. We work closely with the mayor and the city council and the city manager to make sure that we're all on the same page. That is the most important part, is to make sure that we're all on the same page. But ultimately, the police chief reports directly to the commission. We do all the hiring, firing, promoting, demoting, policies, procedures, all are done through the commission with the cooperation of the police department. As for hiring, we do an internal hiring through the oral boards, and then they come before the commission, the police chief, and the deputy chief. And the 5 of us sit there and discuss it on whether we want to give a conditional offer or not. And my background is I was a firefighter in the city of Rochester and retired as the assistant fire chief. So I'm very familiar with how politics works. And unfortunately, that's what I see is happening. It's just all about politics. And that's a shame. It should be about the citizens that you protect and serve every single day. That's all I have to say. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you for being here, and I really appreciate you understanding. Appreciate you. Thank you. Sonia Prince?
Hi, thank you. Sonia Prince, 49 Tufts Drive. I'm very disappointed. We were asked to speak tonight, a few of us, and names were thrown around via email and calls with the chair of this committee, and that did not happen. We didn't make it on the agenda, so I find that very strange, but whatever. I'll take my time. Some of the things I heard from Chief Lavoie were very disturbing, especially when he spoke of sexism, or he kept mentioning Jan Schmidt and Trish Clee. First of all, I filed that petition in May before the bill was even introduced to the Board of Aldermen. So I think that's just a big joke to me when people are talking about other things. So we, the citizens, exist. We took a legal process. You can ignore it all you want. You can say you hate it. You know, there's more discussion. We need to study. You can say what you want. The law is the law. I filed a legal petition. It is what it is. You don't like it, you go out and knock on 2,100 doors, have 2,100 conversations if you want change, because that's what it takes. And it wasn't easy. It was very exhausting. In the heat, in the rain, awful weather, I went out every single day. So if you have the gumption to do that and you want change, I'm a feminist. I'm going to say it straight out. I'm a feminist. I've always been, I always will be. Women need a seat at the table. I love when they say, oh, you know, women could have applied, women could have applied. Even Heffron said that he was recruited by police officers. So people are recruiting in the background, whether you like to admit it or not, but it is what it is. I was pretty annoyed when Chief Lavoie said, why involve so many people in this process? When he says that, I hear, why involve women? When he says less is better, I hear, let's keep it the way it is, all men. Less is better, no women. That's what I'm hearing. So especially when he addressed Jan Schmidt and Trish Clee in particular and said, why aren't you listening to him when he's telling you? He's talking about Chief Kerrigan. Do we not have our own opinions as women? Are we not valued as much as he is? I mean, we can have different opinions. I didn't agree with the chief on body cams. We had really tough discussions for 3 long years. We worked on committees together. I was there when the CALEA came and evaluated
30 seconds.
The police when they came to evaluate at the CALEA at the high school. I organized that event with the chief. I helped. And they talked to me. And yes, their training is wonderful. This is nothing, the training's not going to change. They're not going to escalate violence because the commission changed and there might be a couple of women on there and the Board of Aldermen is going to vote for them. So, I mean, I just think it's so dramatic. For the police to show up at my home, 3 police cars led by Robert Lacerda.
Time is up.
And they've never come back since. I think that's a bit much. But anyway, thank you for your time.
Okay, someone named Dave. We need your name and address for the record, Dave. You're on mute, Dave. Okay, we lost Dave, so. Did you want to speak, Karen? Yes, please.
Karen Bill, 95 Parnell Place, Nashua. So it's really interesting that I find that the mayor's actions actually for changing the commission, and if somebody said, I'm not gonna go, you know, finger pointing names and everything else, I don't need anybody to say, I said it, they said it. There was a comment about, you know, the commissioners could be removed without cause. That's kind of ironic in my book because if that word, I don't care if it's the current wording, if you're gonna change something, you think you're changing it for the better, but then you're gonna say, this is the wording and how it is, so that's why we kept it. Well, gee, why change it then? Because the irony is saying that about the police commission who oversee police officers who actually uphold justice and can't go without proof and, you know, arrest a person just for the heck of it. So I thought that was pretty ironic. And I think that all the comments that the mayor is making, or this whole campaign to change this, in some people's minds would put a thought, why is the mayor doing this? Is it because there are issues, or were there issues and we just don't know about it? I think there are some subliminal things going on there. I think if we were all on a ship, this was the ship of Nashua, it'd be pretty much like a mutiny. And I'm wondering if the mayor thinks that, if he's saying that he could do a better job, you know, overseeing the commission. So, Mr. Mayor, would you like to answer that? Oh, I'm sorry, he took his bat and ball and went home.
Orlano?
Lori Ortolano, 41 Berkeley Street. You know, we started this process off, and when this petition came forward, I was told as a citizen we'd be able to ask questions and get answers before we had to vote on it. I'm remiss to understand what questions and answers we've been able to ask. I came to 2 ward meetings and you didn't allow questions. I don't even understand that. It's nice that you get to ask questions, but since the citizens have to vote on it, we should be able to ask questions. And when I send emails, particularly to the aldermen who made the vote, I don't even get a response back, nor do other citizens. So everyone, in my opinion, has been irresponsible with this from the elected body. Ms. Klee and Ms. Newman really disturbed me in their comments about, you know, this should just go on the ballot and let the people vote. Ms. Klee didn't have anything to do with it. She just kicked the process off. It was completely irresponsible. Once she kicked it off, did she pull back and say, whoa, wait a minute, this is way too involved. I shouldn't back this. Nope, she let it roll and got right on board. And all of it seems to be based on fear of what's going on in Concord, this very political partisan environment up there. You know, she explained that as a Democrat, she hasn't been able to get through to the governor's office. Well, as a citizen in a nonpartisan city, in 3 years, I've never gotten through the mayor's office. That's interesting. Let's worry about the partisan politics we have going on down here. And I'm not the only citizen. We have an autocratic, vindictive mayor. I did not vote for him the last time, and I would never vote for him again. He needs to move on, and he has taken a position to do something with this police department. It's completely irresponsible. It's just ridiculous. I received a text today, and there's a small group of us going out working very hard at getting information out. One of the people doing footwork today said lots of good conversations today with people doing yard work. They really don't know what's going on with the police, kind of scary. Yeah, that's what I found. And what really disturbs me as well is when I see an email in a very nonpartisan city that is a nice picture of the mayor and the candidates on the steps, let's keep working for a better city. Vote for your Democratic team on Tuesday, November 2nd. Jim and Vicky Donchis. Let's all of us get a black permanent marker out and put an X through every one of these faces and make certain we do not vote for these candidates on November 2nd. Because this is far too partisan and it needs to stop. And it starts with the mayor. He takes your voices away, and you as aldermen are kissing his ring too much. Thank you.
Sue Newman, 25 Charlotte Avenue. Just for some levity, Mrs. Ortolano and myself walked up the stairs together. So anyway, for what that's worth. And I just say, I am here in an unofficial, just a concerned citizen capacity. I came late to this whole thing, but when I became aware of a petition to change the process for the police commission, I agreed with it. The biggest thing that I learned in helping get some signatures for the petition was that nobody knew how the police commission was put together in the first place.
Exactly.
This is gonna sound ridiculous. I consider myself more well-informed than many people. But as I told Commissioner Toner a few nights ago, when someone first asked me, about the police commission. Did I know who was on it? I believe my exact words were, I know former Alderman Toner is on it because I voted for him. No, we don't vote for our police commissioners. That was probably the biggest thing that I learned. People had no idea. I'm used to, I guess I wanted to say something about the temperament in the room. Having been to recent school board meetings, you guys are, this is like, here. But awareness is certainly heightened. We're up against no daily newspaper, but there's social media all over, so various opinions get thrown around. I'm sorry that in many parts of the discussion it's gotten personal, but we have to move on. I just want to make a comment. The political dimension of a yes vote or a no vote on the ballot question always comes up. I thought Alderman Jettie did a fine job the other night when he made a reference. What if there is a governor from Nashua? And I'll just say, what if there's executive counselors from Nashua or have relatives? So I think we need to trend, meaning that they always brought up 30 years ago.
30 seconds.
When there was a problem, there still can be problems, human nature, but we move on. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? I just have one thing. I would like to request that we forward the questions that were brought up by the commissioner and by the committee to the mayor, and ask that if we can get a response from him by Tuesday. I'd like to have the response forwarded to either myself or Alderwoman Kelly so that we can get them out to the committee.
I was gonna say the same thing, Lori.
Okay, thanks, Cheryl. Comments by the committee?
Yeah, I can't help myself tonight, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
One other thing that I wanted to bring up tonight, and it just happened again in public, at the very end, after someone had been warned that they had 30 seconds, they dropped a nugget about 3 police cars showing up at their home and then done, right? So there's an implication, I don't know what she's trying to imply. That same person did the same thing Monday night, spreading hearsay about a former commissioner, suggesting that this former commissioner had a contract to work on police vehicles and that he was inappropriately using the sidewalk outside his business and was making threats to people if they wanted to make any changes to that. I would just like to go on record that people have spoken with that commissioner this week. He unequivocally denies that he has ever worked on a Nashua police vehicle, and he would like to point out that he owns the land that the sidewalk is on outside his business, so he's free to do what he wanted with that sidewalk because it was his property. I would just ask people, I know there's a tendency to, you hear something, you want to share it because you think it's relevant, but I would just ask people to maybe stop and consider, do I know this to be a fact? Or am I just throwing it out there because I think it serves my interests? I think it does a great disservice to anyone that's listening to us. I think it does a great disservice to people that are named as potentially doing something wrong. And I just really don't think it adds anything to the argument. Thank you.
Couldn't agree with you more. Alderman Dowd.
Yeah, it's just a couple things. One, and I believe it's driven by RSAs, but our local elections are nonpartisan. Yes, I know both parties have been ignoring that fact for some time now, and it's unfortunate. But the one thing that's been fairly clear from the Board of Aldermen's perspective is there's never any politicking done in the chamber. And someone that spoke in public comment in the beginning, who's running for office, ignored that completely. And I don't think that is right. It's always been the policy of the board and the city, especially if you're running for office, that nothing come up politically to try and enhance your position going into the election. To me, that's unfair, it's out of line, and shouldn't be done. So I think that ought to be brought up somehow. The other point is, this particular question on the police is to some degree partisan and to some degree nonpartisan. I mean, there are people on both sides politically that are advocating one way or the other. So I would hate to see people trying to influence people by not engaging in all the facts. If we can get to the general public, look at these meetings, look at the information that's available, and particularly when you're getting ready to go to vote, make sure that you do your homework and not just listen to somebody that's knocking on your door and advocating what their position is. All right, just wanted to say that because I know that I've been on the board with people from both parties, and it was always the policy, no politicking in the chamber. Thank you.
Alderwoman Kelly.
Thank you, President Wilshire. I also wanted to start by thanking you for serving as interim chair this evening. In my absence, I knew it would be easier to have someone who was physically present, so thank you for doing that.
You're welcome.
I did just want to comment on a few things, just more organizational and instructional in terms of this. I think there was a comment that we as aldermen should be out with our positions on this and that we should be educating the public. I feel strongly that that's not our job. Our job is to take care of what's in front of us, think through it thoughtfully, hear from our constituents, and make decisions. It's not my job or your job or anyone on this committee's job to be putting specific opinions out there. And I especially feel as the chair that it's really critical that I stay as neutral as possible because I am very committed, like I said in the beginning, to hearing from both sides of this issue to make sure that we're doing the community due diligence and really having this discussion openly and honestly. I also just wanted to talk about just organizationally, there seems to be some confusion about, when people are on the agenda, when they are not. So I would like the committee to know that our next meeting is on November 4th. And if there are people that you would like to speak at that, I especially would like to see Mr. Peters come back, if that's amenable to you. I know you came already, and I know your time is precious. I will make sure that your name is on the agenda. I would invite the mayor back as well to make sure that we hear his side of this as well in terms of, to your point, Lori, there were a lot of people with questions that didn't get them answered this evening.
All set? Alderman Gathright.
I just have a question, I guess, through you to the chair. I think that someone had mentioned that they thought there was a meeting next week, but then someone else, and she just clarified that it's the following week, I believe. I think it would, because it seemed like there's some questions that need to be answered, I would just recommend that you guys call a meeting. Because, next week, I don't know how that works or who does that, but, and I'm very serious
If I could
about
respond, Lori.
Okay.
Alderwoman Kelly?
Thank you. I think that's a great idea. It's been especially tough to get chamber time with, special meetings, et cetera. We've just had so much going on. That's why these dates were picked. I'm happy to look at it if that's the will of this committee. But I know from Donna and I having previous conversations that the space and time was very limited in the chamber.
It is very limited. Anyone else have any comments? Ready? Okay. Oh, Alderman Dowd.
Yes. Just a couple things. I just wanted to clarify the reason that I'm not there in person this evening is because I may have been in close contact over a week ago with somebody that came down with COVID. And I've been tested, have no symptoms, but in abundance of caution, I did not want to be there in person this evening. The other thing is we have our next meeting on the 4th. There are a number of meetings that day relative to the middle school project. We're going to be doing the rededication of fairgrounds in the afternoon, and we are going to be having a joint special that evening, so that the people that travel from Maine and everywhere will all be here for one day, and we don't reduce travel costs. So I don't know how that's going to work out with this meeting, because there are a couple of us anyway that are, at least 3 of us, I think, that will have a conflict. So we need to discuss that, Alderman Wiltshire.
4 of us.
There are 4 of us, actually.
4 of us.
Or, I'm sorry. Sorry, Linda.
Okay, well, there are no other free nights. Our schedule is completely full. So we will have to look at what's gonna happen. I mean, we may have to cancel it.
The joint special is going to be very short. So if we wanted to have this meeting later, that would work.
I'd be open to that.
Okay, we'll work that out. Thank you, and thank you, Shoshana. Okay. Mr. Clerk, do I have a motion?
I make a motion that we adjourn, please.
Motion is to adjourn. All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
You gotta do it by roll call.
Oh,
Sorry,
oh yeah, roll call.
it's our fault.
Could you please call the roll?
COVID's fault, technically.
Alderman Kelly,
Yes.
Alderman Dowd,
Yes.
Nicholas Dahl,
Yes.
Mary Lou Blaisdell,
Yes.
Mark Brave,
Yes.
Kendra Smith,
Yes.
Deborah Novotny,
Yes.
Carrie Baxter,
Yes.
Alderman Wilshire,
Yes,
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes.
Get my glasses, that's why I kept putting them on.
and we are adjourned at
Shades, right? But
9:12 PM. Thank you, everyone.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you
Thank
to
you,
those
everyone.
of you on Zoom.